On the day of our 8th anniversary, I ate a full table of Alice's favorite dishes by myself. On the way home from the restaurant, I sent her a message and broke up with her. She called back. Just because of one dinner? Yes. Can you stop being so damn unreasonable? Her voice was laced with impatience. You know I hate wasting time. That restaurant takes 40 minutes to drive to. Are you the reincarnation of a gluttonous ghost? After I hung up, I stared at the screen and suddenly I laughed. Influencer Santiago had just posted a new update. Waited in line for 5 hours just for this one bite. Totally worth it. In the corner of the photo, a woman's delicate soft hand was deliberately shown off. On her middle finger, a custom-made couple's ring identical to mine. Chapter 1. Alice came home very late. Half asleep, I felt her soft body slip into my arms as her warm skin pressed against mine. A sharp scent of men's aftershave hit me. Intense, thick with testosterone, the kind Santiago would love. It made me want to throw up. I forced my arm up and turned on the bedside lamp, meeting her seductive gaze. I frowned. Alice, we already broke up. As the words fell, she sat up. The excitement in her eyes immediately vanished. Just because I didn't have dinner with you today? I already explained, didn't I? It was rush hour. Driving there takes 40 minutes. That restaurant works by reservation. I booked it 2 months ago and even saved the reminder on your phone. I looked straight into her eyes without flinching. Alice, rush hour traffic isn't a once-in-a-lifetime event. And today is our 8th anniversary. A bitterness rose from my throat, and even breathing hurt with a dull ache. 8 years ago today, she nervously held my hand for the first time, called me her dream man, her eternal source of inspiration. But time is a dull blade, silently shaving off the heat of passion, leaving behind only indifference and a cold, mechanical, what a waste of time. Alice choked on her words, pouting in false grievance. Fine, it's all my fault. I was too busy and forgot the anniversary. But didn't you once say, every day with me is like an anniversary? It's just a meal. Do you really have to overly act like this? I stayed still, unmoved. Benjamin, are you sure we can really separate? Alice's lips curled in a mocking smile, confident and composed. After 8 years of love, we were more than lovers. We supported each other's careers, our social circles had merged, and even our finances were entangled. We lived like a married couple in every way except for that one piece of paper. She was sure I wouldn't dare let go. But I nodded without hesitation, and the smile froze on her face. She inhaled deeply before speaking again. I don't get it. We work so well together professionally. We connect perfectly physically. Is it worth blowing everything up over something so trivial? She paused, then leaned up to softly kiss the corner of my lips. Can we stop fighting now? I really am exhausted today. After all, I had loved her for 8 years. Whenever she showed a hint of vulnerability, I would soften without thinking. But the sudden ping of a message nearby made that softness feel pathetic. I read each word on the screen aloud one by one. EMS Alice, thank you so much for today. That was hands down the best paella I've ever had. Love you. I turned to her with a mocking smile. You're tired today because your outing with Santiago was worth every second, right? Alice let out a sigh. Benjamin, you're really overthinking this. Santiago is just a friend. He truly appreciates my art. That's all there is to it. My throat tightened. I could still feel the sting of the scratches left on my fingers from installing her last exhibition. Over the past 8 years, I stayed up late writing proposals for her, played nice at her networking events, begged and fought for her opportunities, only to be dismissed with a frown and a cold, whatever, you handle the gallery stuff. But Santiago only had to casually mention on a live stream. There's a painter lately with this primal energy, and that single sentence became gospel in her eyes. She started brushing off everything I did. You're too commercial. Your involvement makes my paintings smell like money. Yet in interviews, she credited Santiago as her source of inspiration, calling him the one who truly understood her. When Santiago said he liked one of her paintings on stream, Alice immediately pulled it from an important exhibition and gifted it to him. 3 years ago, I asked for a small sketch for my birthday, and turning my art into a gift is an insult to my work. In the end, she loved the spotlight Santiago stood in, loud and dazzling, and I was always just the invisible man in the wings. Chapter 2. I blinked hard, squeezing out the last trace of moisture from my eyes. Then I smiled faintly. Then, congratulations on finding someone who truly gets you. Alice frowned. Benjamin, do you have to be so passive-aggressive? Santiago isn't like that. He's honest and open. He never meant to come between us. Honest and open? Maybe. Maybe in Alice's eyes, flaunting someone else's girlfriend on social media, subtly stirring up drama, and baiting fans to ship them as a couple, that's what counts as honest and open. Alice, ever since you met Santiago, you've been different. I didn't mind when you two talked about art and dreams. I told myself it was just work. But then it escalated. He started calling you after nightmares, asking for help coordinating his outfits, needing you when he was sick. Every other day, there's always some reason for him to come to you. I locked eyes with her. Search your heart. Do you even remember who your boyfriend is anymore? Seeing the pain on my face, Alice softened her tone. Benjamin, of course I remember. You're my boyfriend. Everyone knows we're about to get married. I know what really matters. Before I could respond, Alice's phone rang. Whatever the caller said, her expression changed instantly. She jumped out of bed, throwing on clothes in a hurry. What's going on? At that moment, I knew only Santiago could make her react like this. Sure enough, she answered. Santiago ticked off a restaurant owner the other day during a live stream, and now the guy got drunk and showed up at his doorstep causing trouble. I'm going to check on him. You should go to sleep. Shouldn't he just call the police? Alice looked back at me in disbelief. Benjamin, how can you be so cold? Santiago's young and hot-headed. What if he acts impulsively? I'm just going to help. Are you really jealous over this? Let's talk when I get back. Exhaustion gripped my heart, and the disappointment I felt toward this relationship reached its peak. I didn't want to say another word. I just watched as she rushed out the door. She was still with me, but it had nothing to do with love anymore. Yet only 6 months ago, in front of all our family and friends, she had personally placed the engagement ring on my finger, vowing she'd love only me for the rest of her life. I had stood by her side through all those years. After everything we endured together, I waited for the day she made it, and when she finally did, she left me behind. In the end, I just couldn't bear to let someone else take her away. But now I opened the drawer beside the bed and signed my name on the gallery ownership transfer agreement, ending with my own hands the project I had poured 8 years of my life into. Chapter 3. I never expected Alice to end up at the police station because of Santiago. She got into a fight with the restaurant owner after he insulted Santiago. At dawn, I drove to the station to bail her out. I had just finished the paperwork when I heard Santiago's voice. Ms. Alice, thank you so much for today. I really don't know what I would have done without you. Does your injury still hurt? Alice had several handprints on her face and was nestled in Santiago's arms like a precious treasure. I'm fine. For you, I'm willing to endure anything. Santiago was visibly moved. His arms tightened, holding her closer. Alice's eyes were full of tenderness. She lifted her head instinctively, her lips brushing against his Adam's apple. But he suddenly shoved her away. No, we can't. Ms. Alice, we can't do this. His eyes were red as he shook his head, stepping back. You're about to become someone else's wife. Benjamin is a good man. I can't. Alice hesitated. Benjamin is good, but I've already, him. The female officer beside me cleared her throat, throwing me a sympathetic glance. Alice, your family's here to bail you out. Alice froze. Whatever she was about to say, it never came out. I turned and walked away first, but Santiago stepped in front of me. He bit his lower lip, eyes rimmed red, and spoke in a whisper barely audible. Benjamin, I didn't mean to bother Ms. Alice so late. As he spoke, his lashes fluttered and a tear slipped down his cheek. He scrambled to wipe it away and murmured an apology. I didn't mean to cause any trouble between you two. It's my fault. When something happened, the first person I thought of was Ms. Alice. Please don't fight with her because of me. She's already exhausted with the exhibition coming up. I really don't want to be the reason for more arguments. I let out a cold laugh. And now it finally occurs to you that calling someone else's girlfriend in the middle of the night might be inappropriate? She has a gallery opening tomorrow, don't you know that? And yet you let her walk out of there with a bruised face. If the media decides to spin this story, do you have any idea what kind of damage that could do to her reputation? Or maybe this is exactly your thing. Creating drama, stirring up attention without a second thought about how your actions affect the people around you. Santiago clearly hadn't expected the usual calm version of me to come at him like this. For a second, he even forgot to keep fake crying. He just stood there, mouth slightly open, staring at me in shock. Eventually, he blinked, turned his wide, teary eyes to Alice. "Benjamin, that's enough." Alice stepped in front of him protectively, glaring at me in frustration. "If you're going to lose your mind, do it at home. Stop embarrassing yourself here." Embarrassing myself? I let out a laugh. So this is what I've become after 8 years, a complete joke. Why did I keep giving her chance after chance to hurt me? Steadying my breath, I turned and pushed open the door of the police station. The summer night air was thick and sticky, but it was enough to snap me completely awake. Chapter 4. I didn't go home. I checked into a hotel and buried myself under the covers, sleeping like the dead. But the relentless pings of messages and phone calls woke me up. My WeChat feed was full of friends and family cautiously asking what had happened between Alice and me. Frowning, I opened Alice's moments. Right at the top, a brand new 9-photo collage. It was the solo art exhibition I'd spent over half a year preparing for her. In the very center of the gallery, the spotlight had been taken from her original piece and replaced with a portrait of Santiago, a young man smiling brightly, guitar in hand, bathed in golden sunlight. Compared to my current lifeless self, he was vibrant, radiant, alive. I opened the entertainment trending list. There it was, Alice's latest interview. The bruises on her face had been mostly concealed with makeup. Facing the camera, she spoke gracefully and confidently. This painting was inspired by someone with whom I share a deep spiritual connection. He understands my art. A reporter seemed to ask if that person was her boyfriend. Alice paused just for a moment, then smiled and said, "Of course. I also want to thank my boyfriend. He takes great care of me in everyday life, though he's not really into art, so we rarely talk about work." Even though I'd already given up on her in my heart, this still made me feel like I'd just swallowed a fly. The boyfriend she mentioned was painted like some guy who existed solely to serve her, a man who lived off his girlfriend. With just one sentence, she erased every ounce of my effort and accomplishments from these past years. It seemed Alice had forgotten I graduated from the world's top business school. If not for her dreams, would I have given up my own ambition and ideals just to run a small gallery on her behalf? Right then, her message popped up on my screen. "Hubby, did you see my shout out to you in the interview? Don't stay mad. Where are you? I'll come pick you up after the show. I'll go find you at the studio." She thought I was ready to climb down the ladder she'd thrown me, feeling pleased with herself. She sent over a smug sticker. Instead, I dialed my older sister, the CEO. When the call connected, her voice came through biting and sarcastic. Well, look who's calling. My hopelessly love-blind little brother finally remembers he has a stubborn old sister. She was probably still mad I'd fought with the family over Alice a while back. My parents and sister never approved of Alice. They thought she had climbed to success by leeching off me and my family's resources, all while staying reckless and controlling with me wrapped tightly around her finger. I couldn't be bothered to argue. I got straight to the point. "Lend me your lawyer. I need help drafting a breakup agreement." She was silent for a beat, then chuckled. "Now that's my brother. Took you long enough, but you're finally thinking straight." I laughed too, but it was a bitter laugh. If I wasn't completely disillusioned, who would want to end a relationship in ruins with blood on both sides? But this time, I won't hand over the world I built with my own hands to someone else. Chapter 5. The studio door was slightly ajar. When I pushed it open, she was facing away from me, standing in front of a massive, unfinished canvas, her brush dancing across the surface. It was the sea, Santiago's favorite subject. At the sound of the door, she spun around. A smile instantly bloomed on her face, one I knew all too well, once intoxicating enough to steal my breath, as if there had never been any cracks between us. "You're here." She set down the brush and crossed the room in a few quick steps, ready to throw herself into my arms. I stepped aside. That body I once longed for passed right by me. Her arms froze midair, then slowly dropped, as if nothing had happened, but her smile deepened, soft, sweet, intentionally gentle, like a rehearsed performance. "Still mad at me?" She leaned in a little, her voice tender, tinged with a spoiled girl charm. "You must have been exhausted these past weeks, running around for the exhibition." "Ah, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have upset you. Let's make up tonight, and celebrate our 8th anniversary, yeah? I've already made the dinner reservation. She reached out to touch my cheek, and I turned away coldly. Alice, I'm not joking. I'm really ending this. My voice was calm and level as I reminded her. She gave a light laugh, as if humoring a child who didn't understand the world. Break up? Oh, please. You're just mad. How long are you planning to be broken up this time? 3 days? Benjamin, come on, we've been through so much. From when this gallery was just an empty shell all the way to today. You can't live without me, and I can't live without you. She looked around the studio, eyes grazing over the now valuable paintings on the walls. Her tone softened deliberately, her gaze warm and affectionate. We're like the perfect color palette. Without one of us, the whole painting falls apart. Don't be like this, okay? I'll even get you a car for our anniversary if that's what it takes. She reached out to take my hand. The perfect color palette, I finally lifted my eyes to meet hers, staring straight into the artificial warmth behind her gaze. A smile tugged at my lips, but it was cold as ice. You're wrong, Alice. Without you, I can still make someone else shine, just like I did with you. But without me, you're nothing. As I spoke, I pulled a neatly bound document from my backpack and slapped it down on the paint-splattered palette beside her. I'm not here to debate whether we can live without each other. Just read this. Her smile froze instantly. A frown tugged at her brow. She lowered her gaze, scanning the title printed boldly across the front. Equity Transfer Exit Agreement. Her pupils contracted sharply. Chapter 6. What is this supposed to mean? Alice's voice turned cold, with a barely noticeable edge of tension. The meaning is simple. My tone was even colder than hers. When we opened this gallery, I provided the funding, but to highlight your role as the artistic core, you held 51% of the shares while I had 49%. At my sister's insistence, we signed an addendum, black and white, clear as day. If the partnership breaks down, as the operations lead, I have the right to demand that you buy out my entire share at market value in one lump sum. Otherwise, I have the legal right to invoke the forced exit clause and remove you from the gallery, giving me full control. With every word I spoke, Alice's expression darkened. When she heard forced exit and remove you from the gallery, she snapped her head up, eyes blazing with a mix of disbelief, rage, and humiliation. You're kicking me out. She practically screamed, her voice trembling from fury. Benjamin, so what if you put up the money? You were just afraid I'd leave you. That's why you threw cash at a damn gallery to tie me down. This is my gallery, my name, my paintings. Who do you think you are? I think I'm the person holding a legally binding contract. I pointed calmly at the document, tapping the spot where her flamboyant signature sprawled across the page. And I'm also the person who took you from a broke, unknown painter and turned you into the so-called renowned artist with a foothold in the industry. Without my management, your paintings would still be gathering dust in a storage room somewhere. Her chest heaved, one finger shaking at me, but she had no retort. All she could do was shout, desperate and angry. You're doing this out of revenge, just because so what if I am? I cut her off coldly. All the exhaustion and heartbreak I had bottled up turned to a frozen, ruthless finality. Alice, stop feeding me that fake-ass color palette theory. It makes me sick. Now you have 2 options. 1. Pay up real money and buy out my 49% stake at the contractually agreed market rate. From then on, the gallery is yours. We're done. 2. I paused, letting my gaze sweep over the studio, a place built from years of sweat and filled with the ruins of my broken illusions. Then I said it, clear word by word. Pack up your paints and your soulmate dream guy and get the hell out of my gallery. Oh, and one more thing. I didn't go home last night because I couldn't stand to see your face. Now go back and pack your shit. Get out of my house. The air froze as if time itself had stopped. All that remained was Alice's ragged breathing. She stared at me. Her gaze shifted from rage to disbelief, then gradually into something far more cracked, defeated expression, and even a flicker of fear. She finally realized I wasn't just angry, I meant it. I was cutting her off completely. Not with drama, not with screaming, but with cold, clinical precision, using the most ruthless rule in the business world. I was appraising her for my life permanently, and this time it was her inability to let go that became the saddest, most pathetic illusion of all. Chapter 7. Alice didn't obediently get the hell out of my house. Though I owned several properties, I wasn't about to let her continue squatting in this one. While she was busy at the exhibition hall, I took out the moving boxes I had prepared in advance and began packing up her things. I've always been meticulous about organization. I used to sort our belongings neatly, each in its proper place. But every time Alice pulled something out, she'd leave chaos behind. We had lived together for 6 full years. Beyond just clothes, something simply couldn't be separated into hers or mine. I went through each item, recalling whether it had been bought with Alice's money, and as I remembered, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow. The moment I took off the couple's ring from my finger, it felt like something had been ripped out of my chest. I'm not heartless. Sure, I lean toward logic and reason. But even for me, 8 years of love going up in smoke wasn't something I could just pretend never happened. Once I had her things flash delivered to her parents' house, the chapter was officially closed in my heart. But there were still countless tangled connections built up over the past 8 years that needed to be dealt with. I once believed we were the most in-sync partners, lovers, and even family in the world. She filled every part of my youth. Everything I had for those years was wrapped up in her. And maybe that's why, even if it was just emotional betrayal, I couldn't tolerate it. Some mutual friends found out about our breakup and invited me out, trying to patch things up. "Benjamin, what exactly happened between you and Alice? She said you were the one insisting on breaking up. Is it because of that influencer?" "It's just a PR stunt. Come on, there's no way Alice would fall for some tacky dude who only knows how to show off during live streams. You're the business school golden boy. She'd have to be insane to pick him over you. We all know Alice. She's not the type to throw away years of love for a fleeting thrill. You two need to sit down and talk this through." Talk? Yes, we did talk, but it wasn't what you'd call a pleasant conversation. In the past, whenever disagreements arose, I would always make a point of respecting Alice's opinion. Sometimes, even when it clashed completely with mine, I'd compromise, negotiate, try to make things work perfectly. But not this time. This time, during every tug of war, I stood my ground without budging an inch. Alice had just bought a new place for her parents, which meant her cash flow was tight, nowhere near enough to buy out my shares. She had always seen herself as superior, and now that pride twisted into humiliation and rage. "You're kicking me out of my gallery?" It was as if she had just heard the world's most ridiculous joke. Her chest heaved, and her fingers shook as she pointed at me, trembling with fury. "Benjamin, are you serious? Without my brush, this gallery is just an empty shell. Do you really think, Ms. Alice, let's take it easy." A crisp voice cut in from the meeting room doorway. Alice and I turned at the same time. There was Santiago, leaning casually against the door frame in Head Toto's seasonal designer wear, looking like he could step onto a live stream at any moment. He strolled in confidently, naturally taking his place beside Alice, shoulder to shoulder. "Mr. Benjamin." He gave me a perfectly polished, flawless social smile, eyes cold as needles hidden in snow. "Let's not make this ugly. We're all respectable people here." Then he lifted his hand and gently patted Alice's arm, a gesture of comfort, but with a very clear "she's with me now." "Respectable?" I repeated coldly, my eyes shifting between him and Alice. "Bringing an outsider to a breakup meeting. Is that your definition of respectable, Mr. Santiago and Ms. Alice?" "Santiago is not an outsider." Alice snapped instantly, as if finally finding her backup. Her spine straightened, and her voice grew louder. "He's the one who truly understands art and understands me." Santiago's smile deepened, his tone condescending. "Mr. Benjamin, with all due respect, you're just a businessman. Ms. Alice is the real heart of this gallery's success. Your role in operations was just a decorative addition." The look he gave me was laced with pity and mockery. "Honestly, I didn't expect someone like you to be so narrow-minded, trying to reduce her value to a matter of contracts and shares." He shook his head gently, as if mourning a masterpiece lost in dust. "Ms. Alice's talent deserves a greater stage and partners who truly get her, not someone stuck in a profit-driven world incapable of appreciating her soul." Typical influencer talk, pretty words, no substance. But they hit Alice right where it counted. She turned to Santiago with stars in her eyes. When she looked back at me, all that remained was resentment and bitter disappointment. "Benjamin, I loved you for 8 years, and now, looking at you, it makes me feel like everything I gave was a joke. Santiago is the one who truly understands me. You don't even know what real art is." Santiago stood smugly at Alice's side, puffed up like a rooster that had just won a fight. A silent he had taken my place, not just as Alice's emotional confidant, but as the new god of her artistic universe. I stared at the two of them, this dazzling little power couple. Though it had only taken a few smooth lines from Santiago for Alice to completely switch sides, all our past tenderness was already long gone, not even a trace of it remained. I gave a soft laugh, eyes passing over Alice to land directly on Santiago. Well then, since this cultured, high-minded Mr. Santiago appreciates Ms. Alice's soul and talent so much, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help you come up with the funds to buy out my shares. Or maybe, my smile sharpened like a blade of ice. Maybe he'll help you start fresh, rebuild from the ground up. After all, you have soul, you have talent, you'll shine anywhere you go, won't you? The room fell silent. Alice froze, her expression stuck in shock, and Santiago's flawless smile cracked. His eyes flickered with something sharp, anger and disbelief at being caught off guard. At this point, Alice's pride simply wouldn't let her keep clinging to a gallery fully funded by me. Chapter 8. With Santiago's help and connections, Alice quickly landed several investors and sponsors, establishing her own private studio. In the beginning, she rode on her existing reputation and network, plus Santiago's relentless hyping on social media. A genius reborn from the ashes, an artistic soul breaking free from shackles. Alice's studio did gain some attention, commissions poured in, and for a while she was basking in the spotlight, constantly trending online. At first, there were whispers criticizing her personal conduct, accusing her of being heartless, abandoning her longtime partner the moment she made it. But as she began appearing publicly with Santiago at various fashion and cultural events, that noise gradually faded. Still, the glory didn't last. Running an independent studio turned out to be far more difficult than Alice had imagined. Not only did she have to create, but she also had to manage operations, attend social events, and do her own marketing. Santiago was nothing more than a countryside punk who dropped out of school at 16 and started messing around in the streets. His shallow insight might work online, fooling casual audiences in the lower-tier markets, but it would never earn a place in the highbrow art world. Alice's own creative well had been drying up for years. Her new works grew more and more lifeless. Critics and seasoned collectors began tearing into her latest pieces, calling them mechanical, self-repetitive, devoid of soul. Meanwhile, after reclaiming 100% of the shares from Alice, I had originally planned to shut down the gallery, take a break, and return to the family business to help my brother. But then I remembered the gallery wasn't only about Alice. I had signed several young, truly gifted artists. So I changed my mind. I hired a new director to handle all gallery operations and management. I had been foolish, letting Alice and that gallery hold me hostage for so long. Once everything was in order, I left on a spontaneous trip with a few friends. I returned 2 months later. The day our plane landed, it was pouring. I stepped out of the rideshare and immediately saw her. Alice, soaked to the bone, was standing outside my apartment building. The moment she saw me, her rain-washed, bloodshot eyes lit up. She rushed over and grabbed my wrist. "Benjamin, I waited for you for 3 hours. Why did you delete my building access?" I pulled my hand away, expressionless as I looked her up and down. Her expensive designer dress was drenched, her makeup a complete mess. The artistic aura that had once enchanted me was now reduced to nothing but ruin. Once, seeing her in the rain would have broken my heart. Now she looked terrified as she blocked my path to the entrance, afraid I'd walk right past her. "Benjamin, just give me 5 minutes, please. Just 5. I sighed, annoyed. Alice took a deep breath and forced herself to confess. "Nothing ever happened between me and Santiago, I swear. He just appreciated my work. I just needed someone, anyone, to validate me. All those awful things I said before, I was lashing out. Please, forgive me." I let out a cold laugh. "Alice, not sleeping with him doesn't mean it wasn't cheating. Can you honestly say your heart never wavered, not even for a second?" Alice froze, then scrambled to explain, panic rising in her voice. "Let me explain. What you saw was just publicity. I never meant any of it. I didn't want to be more successful, but that was all for you. I was afraid your family would look down on me. I've always felt inferior. I didn't have your education, your background. I just wanted to prove myself quickly. I didn't want you to be disappointed in me. My tone was flat. And yet, right now, I've never been more disappointed in you. Alice's eyes turned even redder, her voice trembling badly. Benjamin, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have lost myself. Please, just give me another chance, okay? I can't do this without you. I know you still love me. You're just still mad at me. I looked at her calmly and gave a quiet, mocking laugh. Alice, weren't you the one who said you finally found someone who truly understood you? What's the point of begging me now? No, no. Her voice was raw, like it had been dragged across sandpaper. He's not the one you are. Benjamin, you're the one who matters most to me. I don't want anything else anymore, just you. Too late. I cut her off, my voice low and final. Alice stood blocking the door, staring at me like she was pleading for her life. Benjamin, look at me. Just look at me. What do you want me to do? You want me to get on my knees and beg? I will. She started to kneel. I shook my head and stopped her. No need, Alice. Just go. She took a step forward, almost pressing herself against me. I'm not going, not unless you say it. Look me in the eyes and tell me you really don't love me anymore. I didn't hesitate for even a second. I don't love you anymore. It was like lightning struck her. She staggered back a step, stunned, looking at me in disbelief. I looked right back at her, expressionless. Your minute's up. Can you move? I'm tired. I want to go home and rest. Alice stood frozen in place, then silently stepped aside. Chapter 9. Alice returned to her studio completely crushed. Santiago hurried over, startled by the broken look on her face. Ms. Alice, what happened to you? Alice didn't want him to know she had gone to beg Benjamin for reconciliation, so she forced a weak smile. It's nothing, just some frustrating work stuff. Santiago paused for a moment, then pulled out the latest AI art tool. Look at these pieces, Ms. Alice. Times have changed. On the screen were several bold, striking in style, with intense visual effects. See? AI is the future. It's more efficient than humans. The future belongs to those who know how to seize it. Your real talent is in composition and vision. Why waste time on repetitive labor? We can generate the base images with AI, and you add your artistic touches. Once you sign your name, it's yours. Production doubles, and you can explore way more styles. That'll attract younger collectors and generate buzz. Alice was resistant at first. Deep down, she still held on to artistic integrity. Art needs soul. It needs the warmth of the human hand. AI has no life in it. But Santiago didn't respect her hesitation. Instead, he pushed harder. The market wants novelty. It wants hype, viral pieces. When you're no longer trending, who's going to care about your soul? Benjamin's gallery is doing just fine without you. Those young new artists are blowing up right now. Just stabilize your studio for now. Once we've got the cash flowing, then you can go back to painting whatever soulful masterpiece you want. Caught between fame, profit, and pressure, Alice's artistic resolve began to crack. She told herself, it's just a tool. I'm still the creator. It's the final adjustment and my signature that give the piece its soul. So she and Santiago began collaborating. Santiago used AI to generate large batches of visuals. Alice picked out the ones that gave her a feeling, painted over some strokes, adjusted the colors, and signed her name. Studio output skyrocketed. Santiago flooded social media with hype. Since breaking free from the wrong man, Alice has escaped the chains of commercialism, ushering in a creative explosion. A whole series of visually intense, stylistically diverse new works burst onto the scene. Thanks to Santiago's promotional blitz, they quickly became a market sensation. Alice's artwork prices soared. She became drunk on the praise and false prosperity, and the initial guilt slowly drowned beneath her growing vanity. Chapter 10. Thanks to my near bone-deep understanding of Alice, I quickly sensed something was off. Those overly perfect lines and color gradients were completely unlike Alice's usual style. But I didn't question it outright. Instead, I quietly took a few steps behind the scenes. I paid a visit to a respected old-school art critic, known for both his rigor and razor-sharp tongue. During our casual chat, I happened to bring up Alice's new piece, my tone full of admiration. Master Chan, take a look at this new work by Miss Alice. The transitions and color palettes are almost inhumanely precise. I deliberately pointed at a section of the painting with a complex gradient structure, one that was nearly impossible to achieve by hand. Look at that, It's flawless. If I didn't already know Miss Alice has always scorned AI, I would have thought this was generated by a machine. Her control with purely hand-drawn work is truly awe-inspiring. On the surface, my words were praise, but in truth, they planted a very precise seed of doubt in the mind of an old fox like Master Chan. Of course, I knew mere words weren't enough. I just needed the right moment, and it came on the night of the charity auction gala. The grand ballroom of a top-tier hotel was packed with the elite. Alice and Santiago, eager to promote their new series, had donated a high-profile piece for the charity auction, hoping to use it as a springboard back into the mainstream art world. The painting was billed as a breakthrough piece, born from Alice's inspiration, the result of 6 months of intense labor. As a seasoned gallery curator, I was naturally among the invited guests. Leveraging my network, I had previously reached out to the gala's organizers with the responsible suggestion that every donated artwork be authenticated on the night of the event to maintain the integrity of the auction. My proposal sounded noble, and the organizers, concerned about their reputation, readily agreed. Santiago, whether for hype or because he naively believed it couldn't be detected, didn't object. Alice, caught in a dilemma, had no choice but to comply. In a side room, expert appraisers began analyzing the painting using professional equipment. The results showed clear stratification and bonding anomalies between the surface and underlying layers of paint. In other words, irrefutable evidence. Master Chan, who had been observing quietly the entire time, stepped onto the stage as soon as the preliminary report was released. Speaking into the microphone, every word fell like a hammer. Ladies and gentlemen, the value of art lies in its sincerity. This so-called breakthrough piece by Alice, according to scientific analysis, was generated by AI. This is a desecration of art, a fraud against both charity and all the kind hearts present here tonight. His words hit like thunder. For a moment, the hall was dead silent. Then the crowd erupted in chaos. Reporters swarmed the scene. Santiago's first reaction was a panicked scream. Slander. This is sabotage by a competitor. Miss Alice is a genius. She doesn't need AI. It's Benjamin. This must be Benjamin's doing. He tried to snatch the report, only making his guilt more obvious. Alice, on the other hand, looked like she had been struck by lightning. Her face ashen, she tried to defend herself, but faced with the damning report and Master Chan's firm condemnation, she opened her mouth, yet no sound came out. Her eyes, dazed and hollow, instinctively searched for me in the crowd. I simply looked back at her, calm and cold, my gaze filled only with clarity and chill. That look alone shattered her more than any accusation. In an instant, Alice understood everything had gone exactly as I had anticipated and orchestrated. Her last line of mental defense collapsed. Before the cameras, she lowered her head in defeat. That single act said everything. The flashbulbs fired like mad. The organizers pulled the painting from the auction immediately, but by then the news had already exploded across the internet at lightning speed. AI fraud uncovered at charity auction. Alice's painting exposed as AI enhanced. Master Chan condemns disgrace to art. These headlines dominated every trending chart within moments. Chapter 11. Netizens began digging into Alice's recent works. To their shock, several paintings still bore faint, poorly erased watermarks from AI platforms. Clumsy post-editing from her team. It was an earthquake in the art world. Top art associations issued public statements heavily condemning Alice's actions and immediately revoking all her awards and memberships. Major galleries and auction houses urgently delisted her works and began legal action to recover them. Collectors who had paid sky-high prices for fake paintings launched a joint lawsuit for massive compensation. Even small independent artists who had uploaded their original work to AI platforms banded together to sue her for copyright infringement. Santiago was quick to cut ties. In a tearful live stream, I knew nothing about this. I'm a victim too. He even shifted blame, saying he had admired Alice's talent and had advised her to stay grounded, but was ignored. Alice's past rhetoric about being an artist with soul was now being dragged out and thrown back in her face. Enraged, she released security footage from the studio. The videos clearly showed Santiago operating AI software to generate the images, and clip after clip of him sweet-talking her into taking shortcuts. The internet erupted in fury. The platform permanently banned Santiago's account. He and Alice completely fell out. Previously driven by vanity, he had maintained an extravagant lifestyle far beyond his means. Luxury cars, mansions, designer goods, all bought on credit. Now drowning in debt and blacklisted, he slunk back to his rural hometown. Word had it that his family hastily arranged for him to marry a divorced woman with a child. Alice's studio was deserted overnight, its doors splashed with paint by debt collectors. The bank froze her assets, and former collaborators swiftly canceled contracts and demanded compensation. Those who once praised her now treated her like a plague in the industry. Alice fell from the clouds into the mud, disgraced, bankrupt, and her artistic career completely ruined. As for me, I had finally stepped out of the shadows and began embracing the arrangements my family made, meeting other high-quality women. At a business gala half a year later, I met Shinyu, heiress to the Shin Group. At first, our interactions had nothing to do with romance. It felt more like a chess match between two equally matched professionals. Her voice was sweet and refined, her tailored suit outlining a slender figure. Her gaze was sharp but carried just the right amount of respect. She admired my professionalism, calm and composed confidence. With her, I could speak freely, analyzing the market, mapping out the future. My past wounds had refined me into something that now shone even brighter. Our aligned values made getting along effortless, and before long, we were naturally preparing to get engaged. On the day of our engagement ceremony, an uninvited guest showed up. It was Alice. She looked even more wretched than the last time she stood outside in the rain. Her dress was wrinkled, makeup smudged, hair in disarray, with dark circles under her eyes that couldn't be covered. She seemed intent on barging in, but was firmly and politely blocked by the staff. Her eyes locked onto me through the crowd, unmoving and piercing. That single glance held too much: shock, despair, jealousy. Seeing me now engaged to a woman who surpassed her in background, status, and presence in every way, her ego simply couldn't accept it. Shinyu followed my gaze and raised an eyebrow almost imperceptibly, quickly grasping the situation. She tilted her head slightly and asked in a gentle, low voice, "Need me to handle it?" Her tone was as casual as asking if I wanted to change dishes. I withdrew my gaze, face calm as if I had just seen an irrelevant stranger. I didn't even spare Alice a second glance. I raised my glass and gently clinked it against Shinyu's. "No need," I said with a faint, careless smile. "She's just no one I knew." Clearly, my indifference would cut deeper than any insult for Alice. She froze in place, as if every ounce of strength had been drained from her, until a staff member stepped forward and politely reminded her, "Ma'am, you don't have an invitation. You can't enter." The world that once belonged to her, she now wasn't even allowed to step into. Overwhelming humiliation and despair drowned her. She finally understood what she had lost wasn't just a lover or a gallery. It was a world she once believed was hers for the taking. And now, in the world that belongs to me, there's no place for her anymore.